Hey guys, this is Solution Podfic, and today we're going to be reading We're Adopted by Shrivenger. The summary is, when Bruce's kids end up on the Watchtower due to a set of unforeseen circumstances, Jason first tries to get the League to believe that they're all biologically related to Bruce. He tries to avoid having Jason give everyone a sex talk by reminding him that he's adopted. This leads to all of his kids pretending that this is the first time they've heard of it, much to the horror of the League and the exasperation of Bruce. Alright, and without further ado, let's hop right in. It finally happened. After years of successfully keeping the League from finding out about all his kids he has, they finally met. And in the most dramatic way, too. In a way, it's very suited for their family, but that is a detail Bruce has hoped to keep from the League. However, it happens anyway, and now his two teams have met. They're sitting in the common room of the Watchtower when the Zeta tube suddenly whirs to life, and the Batmobile comes crashing into the area. It spins to a stop as if it had been in the middle of a chase, before the teleporter snatched them off the streets. Bruce gets out of his chair and makes his way over. He isn't too worried about them, since they're here, and while that might have meant danger before, they are safe with him now. If one of them had been terribly injured or left behind, they would be screaming and yelling already, and that isn't happening yet. His eyes meet Tim's, who was standing next to the car, his costume a little singed, hair askew, and looking a little worse everywhere. Apologetically, he greets, "Hi, Justice League. Promise we have a good reason to be here." For Bruce, this is quite normal chaos, and these are his kids. But he notices that the Justice League has formed a defensive barrier around the Batmobile. They perceive his kids as a threat. It's so absurd that he is quiet for a moment. In that moment, Superman steps forward and demands to know, "Who are you and how did you get up here?" With a car, no less, Hal adds, sounding a little impressed, which didn't make Bruce smug in the slightest. No, sir. He's about to tell everyone to stand down when the doors of the car opened and his kids come spilling out. It's a bit of a car clown moment with how many vigilantes fit inside. Dick nearly falls out of the side, with Damien following after him. Both of them have soot in their hair and scratches on their face. A singed Jason stumbling out of the other side as he loudly complains, "This is the last time we're letting spoiler drive." Steph's costume is a little flame-tattered too, as she swings open the driving side and says, "I'd like to see you do better, asshole. At least it wasn't like Signal's first driving attempt." "Hey!" Duke exclaims, coming out of the car after Jason, looking a little banged up. "Just because I didn't know where the missiles were, doesn't mean it was terrible." "I didn't eject anyone," Steph pouts. "Yes, you did!" Duke exclaims. "You very much did." "Well, not by accident," Steph argues. "It was part of the plan." The other front door is now open, and Cass is next to him. He puts an arm around her and pulls her into his cape, because it seems like the League doesn't know what to do when they're not viewed as an authority. "What happened?" he asks. Six heads snap his way, as if his kids had forgotten where they were. It wouldn't be the first time, so he doesn't even bother rolling his eyes. Tim reports, "The Riddler broke out of Arkham, along with like a bunch of B-rate villains. They caused havoc, but we rounded them all up. Riddler took the time it took us to round them up to set up his traps. He went with the fire theme." "Is he contained now?" Bruce asks, a little concerned. "Yeah, no problem, B. We got him," Steph assures him casually with a thumbs up. Sorry, excuse me, Batman, do you know these people?" Clark asks in that awkward, polite way of his. Bruce contemplates for a second what he should answer, then decides that he wants to know what happened and doesn't want to deal with the questions, so he just says, "My associates. Now, report. How did you end up here?" "Associates?" Jason snorts. However, he is ignored by his siblings as Damon reports, "We have caught the Riddler. However, we did so without solving the last of his riddles, so he sprang his last trap as we took him down, and we became the target of some missiles." "Oh my god, are you okay?" one of the League members explains under their breath. "Of course we're okay," Damien spits back. "Unlike you, we've been trained. And we learned our lesson. Always solve all of Riddler's riddles," Steph grins, giving them all a thumbs up. "I already said that, but who listens to Red Robin?" "Nobody," Tim complains. Before it can turn into a squabble fest again, Bruce clears his throat and Dick jumps in to get them back on track, explaining, "We tried to get away in the Batmobile, but we couldn't outrun it forever. So we decided the best way to escape was to use the Zeta tube connection." "It was great. Spoiler sent replacement flying so he could put in the code," Jason laughs. "I wanted to beam us to the cave, but with the amount of time we had..." Just taking us to the most recently used coordinates was smarter, Tim explains. He checks his arm computer, then he says, the chatter on the police comms is that the missile made impact where we disappeared. No one was in the area when it went off, but there is property damage, and a few of the new recruits are convinced we're supernatural, since none of our remains are being found. The last bit gets a few laughs from the assembled vigilantes. Most of the Gotham PD has resigned themselves to the fact that the protectors of Gotham are humans, who seemingly pull off the impossible from time to time. However, there are always newer members who come up with great conspiracies about how they aren't human, and that's why they pull it off. Bruce knows that it's a bit of a game between his kids to see who can get them to believe the weirdest shit about them, so he just lets them have the moment of amusement after what must have been a highly tense moment. Then he asks, where's Bluebird? Since he hasn't seen Harper among the crowd, which is weird, because she's on the night shift, while Duke is on the day shift. She's the one who figured out where Riddler was and caught him, Dick said proudly. She was escorting him to Arkham when she noticed he was being off. Without her, we would have never made it to the Batmobile in time. Bruce made a mental note to thank her for saving his other kids when he sees her. We also let Oracle know we're okay, so she can inform her and Batwoman when she gets back from her mission, just in case she saw the news, Dick goes on. Wait, they get interrupted by Hal. How many more heroes are you going to pull out of your sleeve? What happened to Mr. I Work Alone? Am I being crazy here? Why are all of you just standing there? Clark says, well, it's obvious Batman knows these people, and they do not seem like a threat to us, so I was going to wait until they'd given a report before demanding answers. And we will demand answers, Batman, Diana adds, making Bruce swallow a little. We are your friends. We hoped there would be some trust there. You seem to have a whole different team of warriors. That is something you share. Don't mind me. He just comes with permanently built-in paranoia. It's nothing against you, Dick tells them. In the background, Jason snorts. Did you hear that, guys? We're his team of warriors. His associates. Damian huffs at that. These imbeciles obviously do not know what they are on about, and I refuse to be referred to as such, when I am the Blood Son. I don't know, Robin, Steph laughs. It almost starts to feel like he cares. I mean, he obviously has been bragging about us. He has not spoken a word about us, Damian exclaims. In the background, Bruce can feel a headache coming. He has tried to keep his kids away from the league for their own safety. They can't use his kids against him, should they become compromised, if they don't know they exist. However, they do know now, and not only that, it seems like his kids are only here to cause trouble on purpose now that they finally get to meet who they referred to as his work friends, aka the only friends he has. Delightful. Indeed, the league has picked up on the words Jason set Damian up for, because Hal repeats, Blood Son? And Clark frowns. They do seem quite young. Batman, are you employing babies to protect Gotham with you? Diane exclaims in horror. I am highly trained. Who dares to call me a baby? Damian protests immediately. While his siblings would usually laugh at him, they now also feel offended. All of them have to defend their age to people, including Bruce. They don't like being questioned, so all of them are falling over themselves to defend their positions as protectors of Gotham. Bruce decides to help them explaining. There are more teen heroes. Most of you have, or had, a sidekick. These vigilantes keep each other safe. They have the safety of backup, and I also provide good gear. They're not running around without a clue of what to do. Aw, I knew you cared, old man, Steph coos, while Cass taps a genuine thank you in Morse code on his arm. Batman, I appreciate you look out for them, but most sidekicks have superpowers that are related to one of the heroes and sought out a mentor to help. Clark says gently, You have no powers. Where did you get these kids? And in hindsight, he should have known better than to hesitate. However, at the time, he does, because the circus, the streets, the neighbors, and some villains are not really good answers to that question, no matter how true, and he doesn't know if he wants to explain. Still, he has to admit that he melts slightly when Cass speaks up to say, his kids. Plus, it's kind of funny how most of the League members jump out of their skin at the sudden voice, since none of them had spotted Cass before, not even those with super senses. His daughter's so talented. Arguably, the funniest reaction is Cal, who shrieks, Where the fuck did you get these kids, Spooky? As he violently startles back. However, Jason jumps at the opportunity, sending Bruce a shit-eating grin before he does. He might still be wearing the helmet, but Bruce knows him. He says, Well, when two people love each other very much, No, just no. Absolutely not. The League already thinks him to be a bit of a weirdo who's steeped in paranoia. They respect him, but they're always a little wary of him too, which is good in a way. He doesn't want them too close to his secret identity with the threat they could pose. Still, he doesn't want them to think he practically bred an army of shadowy vigilantes to protect Gotham. He'd never live it down. Hood, he quickly cuts Jason off before he can continue with his nonsense. Then he tiredly reminds him, "You're adopted." "What?" Jason shrieks, ripping his helmet off to reveal a shocked and betrayed face, even with his domino mask. "How could you keep that from me?" It seems like everyone needs a second to recover and process after the outburst. However, Jason is gaining steam and dramatically bears on. "For years, I lived with you, you fed me, you cared for me. You are my dad, at least you were. Was that all a lie? Some ruse? How? Why? I deserved to know." Bruce is shocked, unable to form words. His relationship with Jason has been rough, though getting better. It's still tentative though, so to hear Jason refer to him as dad throws him off in one of the best ways, until he realizes Jason is fucking with him. Even then, it is kinda nice that Jason is messing with him. When he looks, he sees that Jason is having fun under the mask of betrayal. It doesn't have a bitter undertone, like it would have a few months ago. Instead, it feels a little like all the times Jason messed with him in front of the Commissioner Gordon, back when he was Robin. So later, Bruce will cut himself some slack for basking in the feeling for long enough that the others catch on and join in. It starts with Steph, who has never claimed him as her father, a day in his life, but will always be committed to a bit. She sniffles, "I can't believe you'd lie to our brother like that. Soon you'll tell us we're all adopted." "Spoiler," Bruce warns, hoping to deter anyone from joining in. That doesn't happen. Instead, Dick pulls Duke into a hug and exclaims, "Yeah, next you'll tell us Signal here isn't our half-brother, like you didn't leave his mother at the altar." He narrows his eyes and adds, "I was the flower boy too. I can't believe you did that to her." He sees Duke's calculating gaze, flitting between Duke and himself, and knows it's only a matter of time before he picks a side, so he grunts, "Signal, don't. She talked about it until her death. Don't tell me she made it up," Duke suddenly says, picking the side of his siblings. Bruce would be more glad about him getting along with them, if it weren't for the fact that in joining him, he left Bruce. "You monster!" Jason butts in again, not having had the spotlight in too long. "Look what you've done. You can't just drop something like that on us. You can't just pull the rug out from under us. Adopted? Or am I the only one, huh? Is that it? Are all of them your real kids except for me?" It's a little too close to home, so Bruce stumbles. "No, of course, you're always my kid. But this isn't news to you. To any of you. So we're all adopted?" Tim shrieks, stumbling forward to clutch Bruce's arms. "Those people you took me away from? Were they my real parents? Did you lie to me?" And this is just unfair. They're not allowed to gang up on him like this and be dramatic. They know he doesn't know what to do when they get it like this. He gives them a home, he keeps them as safe as he could, he loves them. What has he done to deserve this? Dick and Duke are still embracing each other, and Bruce is pretty sure Dick is weeping. Steph is definitely fake crying while Jason is consoling her. Tim is still clutching his one arm, babbling about being taken from his parents. Cass is his favorite right now, because she isn't playing along with her siblings, just quietly holding on to his side. Damien would share the pod, but Bruce knows that the only reason he isn't playing along is because he doesn't know what their game is and how he can use it to his advantage. Indeed, he joins Zen, though not entirely purposefully, because he asks, "Father, I am your true son, right? I am the blood son, not these imbeciles." Jason is definitely hiding a snort as a sob, and in that moment, Bruce is tempted to disown Damien, just so he doesn't have to deal with all this. He can see how shocked the Justice League is. Their eyes are wide with horror, none of them having truly recovered at the sudden appearance of a gaggle of kids, who are now seemingly breaking down over the surprised news of being adopted. He should have just let Jason give the League a sex talk, so he is tempted to not recognize Damien as his own. However, he knows how much Damien values his heritage, and how insecure he is about his spot in the family, and he does look genuinely worried about what's happening. So Bruce has to sigh and reward the vulnerability that he shows with compassion, saying, "Yes, Robin." Jason lets out a pained groan and says, "So it is true. We really are adopted?" Then breaks down crying. It's almost impressive how well he can sob on demand, how well all of them can. Bruce wonders when they learned that and who taught them that. The League, meanwhile, has also apparently reached their limit and Hal suddenly explodes. "Fucking hell, Bats! Is that how you're telling them that? What the fuck is wrong with you?" Around him, all of the others start to nod in agreement, and Bruce knows that some of the shaking shoulders of his kids aren't sobs but laughter at this point. He wonders if it's wrong to return any of them, despite knowing that he would never give any of them up, even with all the gray hairs they're giving him. He doesn't think about it though, especially when Clark cautiously says, "It seems unnecessarily cruel, Batman. They've just been chased through the streets by missiles. You could have waited." "Yes, it is very cruel," Diana agrees, "and I do not know you to be cruel. Usually, Batman has an image to maintain, but that image includes him working alone and having no sense of humor or humanity, so obviously it's incorrect. Besides, any reputation he might have had just been ruined by his kids. He doesn't have to take this judgment from his friends." So he throws his hands in the air and bordering on a whine says, "I'm not cruel. They all know they're adopted. All of them were over 9 when it happened. Hell, not even all of them were adopted. Not all of them wanted to be. They know. They're just messing with me." It's quiet after his outburst. Both the League and his kids blink a few times. It's clear the League doesn't know what to believe, but his kids are luckily done with the chaos. The Bruce doesn't know if he's happy with that when he sees some of their faces morph into grins. Dick decides to put him out of his misery first, letting go of Duke to skip forward and sling an arm around Bruce, which he grudgingly allows. He never says no to hugs from his kids, no matter what stunt they just pulled. He's right, Dick smiles at everyone, then he jokingly tugs on one of the ears of his cowl. Something he has done since his early days as Robin, and he teases, "He doesn't mind, right, B? You're a softie under there." "Who cares if he minds?" Jason says loudly. "That was hilarious. Did you see everyone's faces when Replacement told them he'd been stolen out from his home?" "Golden. I'm gonna ask O for that footage the second we get back." Now the League is looking at them even more confused, unsure of what to do now. Bruce wants to let them suffer, but he also doesn't want to give his kids room to do something else to embarrass him. So he takes the reins, saying, "Just to clear it all up, this is Nightwing, my oldest. Hi, it's nice to meet you." Dick gives the League a bright smile. "My second, or third oldest, we're not sure, Red Hood." Bruce continues on, gesturing to Jason, who just gives them a salute. And again, the second or third oldest, Black Bat. She waves at them, startling some again since they'd forgotten she was there. They might have to do another stealth and awareness training day. "This is spoiler. She's not one of mine technically," he continues on introducing everyone there. Steph grins at all of them and says, "I eat his food and steal his money, but I'm not having him sign shit. All of the perks, none of the accountability." "And how you remind me of that," Bruce sighs before gesturing to Tim and saying, "This is Red Robin, my 4th kid. He is adopted, but also emancipated, and I did not steal him from his parents. Technically he did, because they were kinda shitty, but only legally when they died." Tim corrects, which is not necessary, and Bruce will be answering questions about that for months. Judging by the smug look on his face, Tim knows. Deciding not to engage for now, he moves on to Duke. "This is Signal. He is my ward. He normally works the day shift." "Hello," Duke squeaks awkwardly. "And this is Robin. He is the youngest." Bruce finishes his introduction. "I am the blood son of the Bat, and the one and true heir," Damien exclaims proudly. Yeah, we know, brat," Jason rolls his eyes. "You were once B's sperm. Whoop-de-doo." Multiple faces contort at that, with Tim and Steph both exclaiming how gross that is, and how he didn't have to phrase it like that, and how they never want to hear about Bruce's sex life ever again in any way, shape, or form. Hal comments, "Wait, you actually have a kid?" Bruce fights the urge to face palm as he deadpans. "Just a second ago, you were willing to believe I had 7 or more. Why do you seem surprised?" That renders Hal speechless, which is good, because Bruce doesn't want to be here anymore. He wants to check up properly on his kids, check up on Gotham, and be as far away from the League and their questions as he can. So he uses the silence to say, "Now, as interesting as this has all been, we are going home. I have a city to check on and kids to ground." All around him, protests start up about how he either has no power over them and can't ground them, or that they're too mature and well-trained for childish things such as groundings. But Bruce is great at tuning them out when needs must, so he types in the last of the Batcave coordinates and lets the Zeta Tube take them home. Alright guys, and that is the end of We're Adopted by Sherwinder. I hope you guys liked it, and I'll see you in the next video.